saluting the snake.
Special announcement for you. But it's time for me to call it a day.
Last week saw the announcement from legendary singer David Coverdale that he was going to step out from under the bright lights of rock and roll and start to enjoy a well-deserved retirement. Now, I've always thought of David Coverdale as a cross between an aristocrat and hip-shaking rock star. And I mean aristocrat because he always had this manner about him, he was extravagant and articulate. But actually, David's background was very humble. He came from working-class Yorkshire. Of course, over the years, he really did well for himself. From being plucked out of obscurity by Ritchie Blackmore to replace Ian Gillan in Deep Purple, he went on to establish his own classic rock behemoth, Whitesnake. So, as a doff of the cap, or a salute to the snake, here are my 5 essential Whitesnake tracks. Albeit from before the 1990s, as regular viewers of this channel will already know the reason for that. But, to be honest with you, there were so many bangers anyway, pre-1990. Love Hunter. From the controversial album cover, which even back then was considered risque, and probably wouldn't be accepted now, it was a reflection of that era, being the late 1970s. And according to David, he just wanted to piss people off, because I suppose that's what you do in rock and roll. You piss people off. And in fact, the amount of t-shirts with that particular artwork that used to be worn by people in the rock community, well, let's just say it was incredibly popular. Now, the reason why I love this track and this era of Whitesnake is because it's Whitesnake at their hard rock, bluesy best. Coverdale's roaring vocals and the blues genius of Mickey Moody on guitar. On top of that, John Lord was also in the band. Of course, he was a bandmate of David Coverdale when they were both in Deep Purple, and the album itself was produced under the expert eye of a certain Martin Birch. Yes, the same Martin Birch who had previously worked with Coverdale and Lord with Deep Purple, and would go on to be, let's say, a resident producer and engineer for Iron Maiden. Slide it in. What an amazing opening riff. Yeah, it's cool, it's powerful, and it's full of rock and roll innuendo. Now, I've often thought that this album has been overlooked by some people, maybe because it feels like it's a bridge between, the bluesy rock of Whitesnake in the late 70s and the later arena rock that would give them huge commercial success in the late 80s. Plus, it's also 1984 when this comes out. And metal, proper metal, so Maiden, Priest, Motley Crue, and a new genre of metal called thrash, with the likes of Metallica and Slayer coming through, well, it was all part of the scene now. Legendary drummer Cozy Powell and John Lord both feature on this album, as does Mickey Moody, but he was soon to be replaced by ex-Thin Lizzy guitarist John Sykes not long after. Here I Go Again, arguably one of the biggest tracks from the whole Whitesnake discography. Yeah. Actually, it's been released twice. The first time, it was recorded on the 1982 Saints and Sinners album, and then it was remade and re-released in 1987 on the album, yes, the album that would transform Whitesnake into a huge rock arena outfit. Now, I have a leaning towards the original version, maybe because it was the first one I heard, but I think the second version of this track is arguably the most well-known. Now, the moment I heard this, I was like, oh yeah. It's mean and it's sleazy. It's powerful and yet it's so bright. Coverdale's vocals on this are just amazing. And yeah, David did get a bit of criticism from some quarters, saying there was a bit of a Led Zeppelin style to it. But yeah, I mean, there are always those people out there, looking to stir the pot, if you know what I mean. Yeah, in 1987, Still of the Night, in no uncertain terms, kicked the door down and positioned Whitesnake well within the pack of mainstream rock acts that would dominate the late 80s. And who could forget the video, eh? Neil Murray would play bass on this track, who'd actually been in and out of Whitesnake for years, and on guitar was John Sykes. He also played the bow guitar on this particular section, which I believe may have influenced Papa Emeritus, as I heard something recently whilst reacting to a particular track from Ghost. Now, I can't say I'm a big fan of soft rock, but I am a big fan of this. It's either the melody or the chord changes, but Love Ain't No Stranger is as strong as any of the soft rock songs that Whitesnake would release a few years later. And putting aside the cheesy 80s music video, hey, they were all like that back then, so come on. This song is a real Whitesnake nugget in my opinion, and came off the 1984 Slide It In album. And so, they were my 5 essential Whitesnake tracks. And the only other thing I can add to that is just say, well, a big thanks to Mr. Coverdale for all the great music, which will forever be around for us all to enjoy.